What's up, world? This is the How To I Do channel, and I am your host, Ed. And listen, again, we have another good one for you. I bet you're wondering why I'm standing in front of this little pond, but we will talk about that in just a moment as we continue our talks on perspective. But before we get into that, make sure that you stop what you're doing right now and like, share, subscribe, and make sure that you comment throughout this video. I'm going to toss it away. We'll be right back, alright? And we are back. And again, we're going to continue our talks on perspectives, which brings me to this little pond back behind me. Now, I need you to use your imagination because we're going to take a trip. We're going to take a trip to Dubai. Now, if you know anything about Dubai, it's on the Arabian Gulf coast, and this isn't quite the sea, but if you use your imagination, we'll be there. If you take a ride with me back a few years before Dubai was known for what it's known for now and all its glory and all its luxuriousness, it was really a small little community that did a little trading. It was a little trading town, essentially. But today, it's known for its luxury hotels, the Burj Al Arab, that 7-star, I believe, hotel. It's like the only one in the world. Amazing. And for its many feats and just the destination for tourists for extreme luxury. But at one point, Dubai was about to experience some really hard financial troubles. They were known for their trading and their gold and their oil, but the oil was about to run out. So the crown prince rather, was faced with a tremendous problem that they had to fix this financial problem. And the financial problem would be due to the lack of oil. They understood that they had a tremendous travel community, but it was only about 5 million. So the crown prince was faced with the task of figuring out how to keep the money flow coming in that they would be losing from the lack of oil. And he had about a $2 billion budget to work with. So what happened was they understood that they needed about 15 million people to come in, but they didn't have the space within the community of Dubai. So they needed to expand the coastline, but that was really difficult to do because they would have to build out into the sea. So some of the architects and engineers brought in some ideas of how they could build a circle of land in the sea. But the crown prince didn't think that that was luxurious enough. So the crown prince started thinking of different ways of turning that circle. It just wasn't good enough. It wasn't luxurious enough for him. So the crown prince decided that what better symbol of luxury could there be than a palm tree, right? You see palm trees in California and Florida, and those are all like really high tourist destinations here in the U.S. But he decided to build a palm tree in the sea, which was something that had never been done before, because they would have to figure out how to make the structures of it. But he didn't want to use the typical things of steel and concrete. He wanted it all to look natural. So they had to ship in sand, because the sand that they had, I believe, was too fine to sustain the weight. So they had to ship the sand in to build up the land above the sea. It's really incredible to see. But my point in all of that is how you view something is so key to your marriage. You can have all of the ideas in the world, but if they don't come to life within your marriage, it doesn't really change anything. You can have what was initial on the plate for the crown prince was a 7-kilometer circle of land. But once the crown prince got involved and his imagination got involved about the significance of the luxury of Dubai, he wanted it to be 70 kilometers, right? And in the shape of a pine tree. So my question to you is, after all of that, I know you're wondering where am I going with this, but the question that I have for you is, how are you viewing your marriage? It's a good one. How do you view your marriage? Is your marriage a little 7-kilometer circle? Or is it 70 kilometers of luxury and beauty and authenticity? Do you even want to have a better marriage? How does your spouse view your marriage? Do you have any idea of how your spouse views your marriage? It's very key, because how you view your marriage determines a lot of what will come out of your marriage. You can have this little pond, or you can have an entire 70-kilometer island built in the shape of a palm tree that you imagined and built out of nothing. That's how important your perspective on your marriage is. But how you view small situations determines the larger game plan of your marriage. I'll tell you a story, and it's in our book right here. In our book, I Do, But How Do I? In chapter 3, my wife discussed how a while ago, she's really big on taking pictures. That is her thing. And I thought for a long time that it was insignificant. It didn't mean anything. But I would just take pictures whenever I felt compelled to. It wasn't a big deal to me, but it was a really big deal to her, and I didn't really understand why. It was a small thing to me. So, as she tells the story, one evening she decided to tell me that we didn't have any current photos of us together. And of course, me being me, I debated her on this, and I said, yes, we do. Or I do. And she told me, no, you only have pictures from Facebook or photos that I've already sent you. And I told her, no, I haven't. And as I attempted to go through my phone, I realized that, of course, she was right, as usual. And I didn't have any. And it really upset her, and I didn't really understand at the time why it was such a big deal to her. To me, it was just, well, let's take a picture now. But she didn't want to take a picture now. She wanted me to already have it. What I came to realize later on during that conversation was that pictures for her are memories. It's not just a picture. It's not just a snapshot and something that we toss away. It's memories that she holds dear. And for me, that was a very small thing, but to her, it was a big thing. And that taught me a very valuable lesson about perspectives and points of views. And that is that if you treat the small things right, then you can have the big things. Many of us gloss over the small things trying to get to the big things. It doesn't make sense to us who are looking at something else or taking our own point of view and placing it on someone else, that something so small would be so significant. It's just a picture, right? But it wasn't just a picture. It was memories that she could hold and revert back to. And again, what I learned from that time was that there are some key things that I needed to do differently. And two of those things that I needed to do differently was to critically think about situations. And I also needed to become a reflective listener. So let me define those two things for you. A critical thinker is a person who pauses to evaluate, critique, compare, analyze, and synthesize whatever it is that they are examining. A reflective listener is a person who knows how to maintain attention and avoid distractions and actively gather information. Now, that's exactly what the Prince of Dubai, the Crown Prince of Dubai, did with his little pond, as it were, before they built into the sea. He was a critical thinker. He paused for a moment because he had to think about how are we going to replace this financial crisis of losing the money from oil. So he paused and he thought about it. He critiqued some things and he evaluated and he analyzed, and then he was a reflective listener to the ideas that the engineers, architects brought to him. It was a small thing at first, and then it morphed into the big thing of the palm tree island. But had he not been a reflective listener or a good listener, then he would have missed all of the small things that helped him to achieve the big thing. Oftentimes in our marriages, we are so quick to get to the big things that we overlook the small things, just like I did, where the pictures to me were just pictures, but to her they were the big thing of memories. Now we create memories regularly. So I'm going to give you an acronym to help you listen better. And the acronym is LISAN, pronounced listen. And you can find this on the internet, but it's a real thing in psychology that some critical thinkers have designed to help those of us who look over the small things to be able to better interpret what our spouse is saying to us and how to filter that information within us. So again, it's listen, LISAN. And the first letter in that acronym is L for lead, don't follow. The first letter in that acronym is the letter L for lead, don't follow. Good leaders anticipate what their spouse is going to say or think or ask by asking yourself questions based on previous experiences. Now, had I thought about some previous conversations that me and my wife had before, I would have known or recognized that pictures equal memories. And I'm sure that there are things in your marriage that you can look at that would give you a signal as well. The next one is I for ideas. Every conversation is formed by a set of core ideas. Those core ideas are generally followed by examples and explanations of those ideas. So constantly ask yourself throughout the conversation, like, what is the main idea? What is their main point that they're trying to make with me? The next letter is S for signal words. Listen for keywords and phrases that signal you to which direction the conversation may be flowing. So keywords may be, or signal words may be things like, my point is, or let me give you an example. Or therefore, which is the conclusion. Those are all signal words that let you know the direction that the conversation is traveling. The next letter in that acronym is A, for actively listen. So sit or stand in a manner that gets you involved in the conversation so that you can ask or respond to relevant questions or points, and do whatever you have to stay engaged, alert, and active within the conversation. These are things that help you, again, to stay involved in the conversation so that you're not mentally wandering off, and then when they ask you something or they bring up that conversation later, you're lost. Actively listen. And the last one is N, for note-taking. People who take notes tend to do better on tests. Making mental notes will also aid you in this area. We talk about it in our book again. A lot of these examples and principles are already in our book. And we talk about, take notes, man. Like, if you need to write things down so that you don't forget them. Everybody has their cell phone within their hand all day. So when your spouse says something that is a main point or main idea, then jot it down. We tell our kids all the time, whatever we tell you, write it down. Type it in your phone. You don't even have to have a pen anymore. So let me give you the listening plan, the LISAN plan, again, real quick. And I'll just give you the key points. L is for lead, don't follow. Lead. I is for ideas. Always try to figure out what the main idea is. S is for signal words. Listen for how the conversation is traveling. A is for actively listening. Make sure that you pay attention, stand or sit in a way that helps you to better achieve that. And N is for note taking. Take plenty of notes because it will help you to understand when things that seem small to you aren't so small to your spouse. What may be a pun to you may be to your detriment, because you could have a palm island in the middle of the sea, right? But how you look at things, how you perceive them is pointedly, it's key to the success of your marriage. So again, leave in the comments below, how do you view your marriage? What is your point of view of your marriage? How does your spouse view your marriage? Is it important to you that you guys work through problems, issues, and tackle certain situations? Or is it a small thing? Well, that's all I've got for you. Until next time, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and comment. We want to hear from you. We enjoy that. And visit our website at HowToIDo.org. And you can find us on all of your social media platforms at the HowToIDo. Again, I'm your host, Ed, and we look forward to seeing you on the next round. Peace.